photo of Yami Lester is taken on his traditional lands at Wallatinna, which is in the far northwest of South Australia, 27 kilometres west of Marla, which is our last roadhouse out of our state, which is out back, and that's where he is today as well. 74 years of age. He is still quite strong and active in telling his story and sharing his story and being a voice for Arungal people, which is the term that we use for us Aboriginal people who are Western Desert speakers, Arungal. And so he talks strongly about those nuclear tests that took place in October 1953. He talks about the story of how that black mist rolled and the ground shook over Wallatinna community where a lot of his people lived. That life, hunting and gathering on their traditional lands. Of course, Dad's a Yankunytjatjara elder, and he's currently, as I mentioned, living in that area there in the community of Wallatinna, and that's where he's retired, and we often visit him back on his traditional lands. But he does speak very strongly about how his people suffered at the hands of the British government when they came in and tested. One of his stories is a lot of those ex-servicemen and the patrol officers that went around speaking to the non-Aboriginal people, which would have been the settlers who were there. Mr. and Mrs. Cullinan were the two people who were there at Wallatinna Station at the time. They only spoke to them. They didn't speak with the Aboriginal community. They didn't speak Yankunytjatjara. They didn't speak Widjinjatjara. And so language was a big barrier, and Aboriginal people didn't know what was going on. And of course, Mr. and Mrs. Cullinan weren't able to share their knowledge of what was going to take place as well in South Australia's outback. But he does continue to find and talk about what happened to his people from way back then, but also being involved in the British Royal Commission and the British testing in South Australia, where he was a key witness along with others who are now quite elderly or have now passed on as well. There's an image there of the mushroom cloud of Totem 1, and of course some memorabilia. When you go out there you can see a point there that they've marked, but as you can see in some of the image there, it's quite barren and very flat. These were traditional lands where a lot of Aboriginal people had hunted and gathered, and you do hear stories of when Aboriginal people had travelled off ground zero and walked into where the British were set up to wash people down, but also to do the reading, the radiation reading as well. And you hear that in a lot of the oral history as well. And you also hear in the oral history of Dad's story about how Aboriginal people either died from those tests or suffered from eye infections, as Dad did, and he's lost his sight. And he's never seen any of his children or his grandchildren or great-grandchildren now with the great-grandchildren coming along. So that's what we're reminded every day of, what these British nuclear tests have taken away from us as a family, but also us as a group of Arungal or Aboriginal people who are Widjinjatjara Yankunytjatjara speakers of that desert region there in South Australia. Here's just a slide of some of the locations in South Australia. You see the map of Australia and two fields where they did the British tests, Maralinga, but also Emu, which was quite remote, but closer to Dad's location at Widjinjatjara or at Wallatinna Station, which was probably about 150 kilometres south of where Wallatinna community was. We also mine uranium, Honeymoon and Beverley, and also Olympic Dam, where of course these the yellow cake or uranium is taken out of traditional lands of Adnyamathanha people, but you also see the port in Adelaide region as well, where the cake is transported around as well. You can see that South Australia is an area that has had a lot of impact, whether it's uranium or testing, and it's work that's been done over the years of people doing further research in identifying stable geology to store nuclear waste. And we've been often questioned or asked to use that part of South Australia as a dumping ground. And some of the work that the elderly ladies had done was to speak strongly against that. A little bit of the timeline is from October 1952, Montebello Islands, they tested there. Of course, October 1953 through to 56, there were tests there at Montebello, but also the emu fields that I spoke about, where emu was what took Dad's sight away, but also 27th of September 1956, Maralinga first atom totem at One Tree went off as well. So there were a number of tests that were conducted out there at Maralinga, from Taranaki on 9th of October 57. Many tests were conducted there. One of the recommendations that did come out of the Royal Commission in 1984 was that a clean-up take place in those lands of Maralinga, and that by 1995 there was parliamentary approval for the clean-up to proceed, and that was completed in 1999. The concerns that a lot of Ngunnawal and Aboriginal people have who are from Maralinga, Darrajah, but also around the surrounding communities like Djulungundjara, Yalada community, Oak Valley community, and us on the Ngunnawal, Bidjara, Yangudjara lands, is how clean and how safe is Maralinga. So although, Senator Mitchin declared it safe, a lot of Ngunnawal are very optimistic or very unclear on whether it is clean. The Early Wandi campaign started in 1998, which was a campaign against the Australian government, who were proposing to put a nuclear waste dump in Aquina Station. And these amazing women here, my beautiful grandmothers and aunties, were the ones who really led the campaign and were the leaders within the whole campaign to rally, gather support, speak out straight, talk out straight about why country was so important. And there's a little quote here that is written in and documented in a book that the ladies have put together called Talking Straight Out. Is their journey of 6 years of fighting against Australia's nuclear waste dump. So they say we take our responsibilities very seriously towards the land, the country, some of the special places. We know that Djurwa, the important stories of the land, the songs that prove how the land is, the Inma, song and dance of the culture, all part of the land as well. The bush tucker that we know and do our best to teach the grandchildren, and even tourists when we have the chance. We take our responsibilities very seriously towards preserving the traditional crafts. The wera, the wana, the wera is the wooden bowl, the wana is the digging stick, Borno is the music sticks, and bari, and as our grandmothers have passed down to us through the generations. The language, the family, that members have respect for one another. And this is the great leadership. Through the whole of that campaign, Nana was awarded the Goldman, one of the Goldman Environmental Prizes. She was one of the recipients, along with Eileen Wani Winfield as well, who travelled to the US. We then had the Royal Commission into the International Waste Dump, and to the left on the image that you see is Commissioner Kevin Scarce, who drove that, the Royal Commission, and our Premier of South Australia, Jay Weatherall. They often talked about, and the terms of reference covered exploration, extraction and milling, further processing and manufacturing, electricity generation, management and storage and disposal. But we put up quite a lot of fight of us standing strong, getting together in events taking place around the state as well. We got together as native title groups that hold connection to country through our Native Title Act as well, where Aboriginal people got together to talk about our concerns and our issues. We had the opportunity to meet with the Commissioner and speak with him directly as well. We pulled together an exhibition night on the 15th of October, which was the anniversary of emu field test, getting together. But we had a success with our Premier saying there's no foreseeable opportunity for this, that our Premier declares the nuke dump dead. So that was just recently announced on the 7th of this month, of June, where we have been able to win one battle, but we still have another one with the National Waste Dump on our agenda again back in South Australia. Van Bob, thank you.
Thank you very much, Karina. Our last speaker today will be Linda Capaldo Modica, who was born in New York City during the Cold War. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Geography from Barnard College and a Master's in Economics from NYU. She is a mother, wife of 40 years, organic gardener, and longtime environmental and social justice advocate. She serves on the boards of community and local groups such as Irwin Citizens Awareness Network and Green Your Faith Network, and on the Cooperation Circle of United Religions Initiative.
Since our docks in Irwin were under a lot of pressure from the company. Or maybe it was the trucks dumping at the Bumpus Cove landfill after dark. Or maybe it was the rumors and stories heard at friends' homes and at church, or from perfect strangers who found your number and gave you a call. Or maybe it was the threats to outside agitators to get out of town or to check your rear view mirror. Or the questions, so many questions. Where did all that missing bomb-grade uranium go? Why was the FBI called in? Was it stolen? Did terrorists take it? Or was it diverted to Israel for that country's weapons program? Or is it just material unaccounted for? That innocent-sounding acronym, MUF. There's a mountain between our home and Irwin, but for other folks in our nuclear neighborhood, their porches look out onto the companies I need to tell you about. The first is Nuclear Fuel Services, NFS for short, in Irwin, Tennessee. NFS is a 60-year-old radioactive chemical operation owned by Babcock and Wilcox. It is the sole supplier of reactor fuel to the Navy's nuclear submarine fleet, and as such is essential to the maritime prong of the nuclear triad. Since its founding in Irwin, midway between Oak Ridge and the Savannah River site, this corporation has functioned as a mini DOE, as one former employee one time told us. And by us, or we, I mean Irwin Citizens Awareness Network, ECAN for short. We're a community group incorporated by me, by Barbara O'Neill, an Irwin native, and the smartest and toughest activist and government document analyst I have ever worked with. And by Trudy Wallach, a downstreamer whose property lies along the Nolichucky River into which NFS discharges, and who is one of ECAN's most elegant spokeswomen. And with the help of Sue Kelly, who tirelessly synthesized and organized hundreds of NRC reports for ECAN. Together with Chris Tipton, Ann Harris, and Park Overall, we constitute what the NRC calls the Wall of Women. To give you an idea of the lay of the land in atomic Appalachian, the Nolichucky River meanders through our region. The river cut gorges in the mountains and laid out a wide floodplain in the foothills. The Nolichucky is the source of municipal drinking water for the residents of 2 counties downstream of NFS, while wells and springs provide the city water pumped by Irwin utilities. NFS set up its secret operations along the river, in a bowl, really. The streets of the old town of Irwin rise up from NFS, so the company's short stacks are at grade with people's houses and yards and churches. The geology is complex and constantly changing. Sinkholes open up sporadically, making groundwater flows unpredictable. Springs and creeks abound, including on NFS's sites. Fault lines crisscross the town. This old railroad hub existed long before NFS. So did the modest homes on Washington Street, And so did Banner Hill Spring, where folks traditionally collected mountain spring water. It was next to Banner Hill Spring that NFS built its plutonium processing facility in the mid-1960s. And it was in part because of that spring and the Wall of Women that the U.S. government declared NFS a public health hazard. True story. We made the feds hear us, not for ourselves, but for our kids and our neighbors' kids. About that time, a baby was born with cancer, and it made big news in Irwin because he had to be taken to St. Jude's Hospital across the state of Memphis. Also about that time, county executive economic development types were working to bring a uranium enrichment plant to Unicoi, a town just up the road from Irwin. A brave business owner opened his doors for community meetings, and mothers came out. Their kids were in school near NFS, and they asked what would happen if uranium hexafluoride was released by the new factory. Would the emergency drill used in Irwin work? Would stuffing wet paper towels around the classroom's windows work? Would it help? No, sorry, I said. A cloud of UF6 will burn everything in its path and even melt the windows of the school. Just a whiff of UF6 will heat up their lungs. The horror we visualized took our breath away, but we knew that the scientist was right. The sad truth is that Irwin's kids not only live under a cloud of fear, that cloud, formed by the nuclear weapons complex, also pours down radioactive rain on them. Up until recently, Irwin was a place where radiation warning signs hung within feet of backyard kiddie playgrounds. The tenants where the kids who used that playground were evicted after NFS learned that they had spoken with the documentary crew who filmed that hideous scene. It took another few years, but NFS ultimately bought out and demolished most of the homes that abutted its fence line. Still, NFS continues to spew plutonium out its stacks and rains down on the town of Irwin uranium-234, 235, 238, thorium-228, 230, 232, as well as technetium-99. And if children were playing in the creeks or swimming in the Nolichucky downstream of NFS, they would be subject to americium-241, cesium-137, neptunium-237, radioactive sodium and lead, and radium-224, 5 isotopes of uranium, 4 of thorium, 4 isotopes of plutonium, a veritable bath of poisons. Again, this list is from NRC reports. But there's another military contractor in atomic Appalachia that I need to tell you about, and that's Aerojet in Jonesboro. This supplier of depleted uranium weapons to the Army has also contaminated our environment and the bodies of workers. Thanks to one Christian Peacemaker delegation of Stop DU campaigners, I met a man who milled DU into penetrator cores at his off-site workshop. The man could no longer stand straight. He leaned, not because one leg was much shorter than the other, but because the neurological damage he suffered from DU exposure. The neighbor across the road from Aerojet has seen a lot too. He told me and others in CPT of how an iridescent plume blew out one of Aerojet's stubby vents one morning, how it rose up about 90 feet, how it floated behind the factory and then it disappeared from sight. He watched from his front porch as people in hazmat suits covered the roof vents. He saw that workers didn't come in for days. Parking lots were left empty. When he called the company, the state, the federal government, no one would even admit that an accidental release had occurred. Bottom line, Both military contractors dump weapons waste into our air and lungs, into our recreational and drinking water, and either directly or through fallout from their smokestacks onto the land where our kids play, our gardens grow, our pets hang out, or our livestock graze. It will come as no surprise to you then to hear that cancer is rampant in atomic Appalachia. In nuclear neighborhoods like mine, kids aren't living long enough to play Little League or go to their first dance. Take Washington Street, for example. Thanks to an 80-year-old lady who went door to door where her sister died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, we know that every third home in her neighborhood had a cancer case or cancer death. The mother, father, and 2 sons who lived in the home closest to NFS all died from cancer. And this is her notebook. Armed with unimpeachable data derived from 193 environmental samples that CPT helped us collect, ECAN made presentations to the National Academy of Sciences, to the chairwoman of the NRC, to NRC staff. We proved that NFS had contaminated 95 river miles of the Nolichucky River, all the way to where the river empties into Douglas Lake. We insisted that NFS be included in the new cancer study of cancer incidents around nuclear facilities, and we got it. We argued that NRC should finally do an EIS on NFS's decrepit operations and not extend its license, and we failed miserably. After the government granted NFS a 25-year license extension, the NRC pulled the cancer study, whining that it would, quote, cost too much. So, if you needed proof that the arms trade is all about money, money that is drenched in blood, often innocent blood, to quote Pope Francis, I'm here to testify to that fact loud and clear. But I'm also here to plead with you, especially if you are party to the banned treaty negotiations. Please end the sacrifice of our children, our innocent Appalachian children. As a mother, and on behalf of Jonesboro and Irwin moms who fear for their kids' lives or who mourn their loss, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you to all of our speakers. I hope that this has given you some insight on how just to make and possess nuclear weapons is particularly damaging and harmful to people and communities. I also applaud the terrific work being done by the people on this panel, who as individuals have taken it upon themselves to become experts in complicated fields and to take on huge and powerful interests to better the world for the rest of us. So I thank each of the speakers. I now would like to open the floor for questions and discussion. Clearly, there's a lot of expertise up here, and 10 minutes is a very limited time for them to share that. And in the back, I believe that you can use the microphone so that everyone, do you have a microphone at your desk?
Wayne, that's you.
This is for Linda. Thank you all very much. Linda, around Irwin and other facilities in Tennessee, they're incinerating radioactive waste, and nowhere else in the country is doing this. To comment on that, you can't find anything in medical literature about this.
As you said, the state of Tennessee is hospitable, let's say, to the nuclear industry. The incineration of waste, both low level and intermediate level, is allowed. Nuclear waste at a low level is even allowed to be dumped in household landfills in a program that's called Bulk Survey for Release. In Irwin, Nuclear Fuel Services is permitted to operate an incinerator on its site. And as I mentioned, Irwin is located in the Nolechucky River Valley. And so, and as I mentioned, and I hope that you got the picture, that its stacks are quite short. And so the town rises up from the valley that NFS is in. Those stacks are, some of them are used for the incinerator that the company has. We have done our best, I'll tell you, we give it the old college try all the time to get this permit denied. We challenge them to the best of our ability. Incineration continues to be a problem. And also the secrecy continues to be a problem because, as you said, there's no data on it. It's buried in the license. The fact that this company continues to operate an incinerator.
One of the characteristics of, I'm just going to call it a scam. It's a scam. Radiation regulation is a scam. And one of the characteristics of that scam is the use of averaging. If you can show that over the course of a year, all the numbers add up to what's allowable, then our friends at International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War in Germany have gotten data that show that there's these tremendous spikes that are allowed. When they open a reactor vessel, this huge amount of gases that are radioactive come out. The local communities are affected by it. These are intermittent, they're intense. This is where the clusters of health effects come from, these intermittent activities. You get a cluster because there was a plume, and then the plume goes away, and they're allowed to average that plume over the entire year. So this is how the scam is run. And the same with incineration. As long as you can show that, everybody in the whole area gets a certain dose over a certain period, then even though you have prevailing winds, even though you have prevailing waters that Linda's talked about, those people who are downwind and downstream are averaged into the whole population of whatever area is allowed. And I know that there are people who say, oh yes, but we look at that. I'm sorry, they don't look at it closely. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here with the situations that are being allowed and accepted. And again, I salute those who stand together and say, no, we don't accept it.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Yeah, my question is for Karina. My name is Jonathan Downs. I'm a member of Physicians for Social Responsibility, and I'd like to commend you on your message because I heard you speak yesterday, and your message was as powerful today as it was yesterday. I'd like to ask you specifically, if you were to be sitting down for a cup of tea with the current Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or perhaps the future Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Jeremy Corbyn, what would you say to him, given the fact that it was the British government that has inflicted the damage on your people? What would you say?
I think I'd ask the question on whether he acknowledges what they have done to Aboriginal people in South Australia. Aboriginal people struggle to find our voice in actually speaking up about this issue. And that's what a government has done to us. That's what our Australian government has done to us. They ignore a lot of our stories. They haven't taken our stories seriously. They haven't given us services that are needed for us in those remote communities because in government's eyes, our traditional lands are out of sight, out of mind. But for us Aboriginal people, that land is our livelihood, it's our well-being, it's our knowledge of our country, it's our traditional lands, and as our grandmothers have quoted, they are the lands that we are responsible for the future generations. So I would question what knowledge he does have of 1953 and between the here, 1950s and between 1960s as well. The knowledge that he may have of what took place, because it wasn't until 50 years later that we realised that there were more than 1 or 2 or 3 tests done. There were many tests done at different scales and different tons of what they really released on those traditional lands. And the Clean-up Act was such a fraud. There are terrible stories of those materials and parts where it was cleaned up, where infrastructure was buried just slightly below the surface. They are exposed now, and you can see that because wind has blown. When you see parts of where infrastructure has been buried now exposed again, Aboriginal people still try to maintain and live a traditional life, and they still go out onto country and hunt and gather. That is important for them as Arnab or Aboriginal people. My understanding that there have been perhaps a handful of people who have come and spoken, and more along the lines of the mining activity that has taken place on traditional lands in Australia. The networking, I guess we're still on that journey of networking and working together and sharing those stories in Australia. We do have an organisation called ANFA, which is our sort of group that we work with as Aboriginal groups. But again, because of the diversity and the distance between our communities, our homelands and our cities and towns, sometimes it is a struggle in trying to get to meetings and get to venues and network. I'm certainly on that journey of networking internationally as well, and building relationships with the Bakasha and having the opportunity to present over there recently, back in November last year, to share Dad's story and to show the generation story as well. And that's kind of where, but it is myself and maybe a handful of others that are doing the networking. But there is also, need for us as Australians and those who are experiencing, whether it's mining on those traditional lands, whether it's the waste nuclear storage issue coming up, we do need to get together and network more in order to get our story out of what's happening to Indigenous Australians. So it's a little bit of a challenge for us, and the political environment in Australia is not always smooth. There are challenges there for us as well. So we are certainly working on that and working towards joining our voices and making that voice stronger, as my elders had done in the past, and I hope to take that forward and us networking amongst ourselves a bit better, and getting our stories out of what's happening to us Indigenous and Aboriginal people in Australia as well. So I'm certainly going to take that back to my community and let them know, and let them know about this experience of what's happening here in New York and at the United Nations as well.